You've always known you were meant for more. But you've been waiting too long for something to wake you up. This is it. Not a message. A turning point. A clean break from who you've been. You were not born to react. You were built to rule. What you'll learn here isn't noise. It's a blueprint for mental sovereignty. Calm, calculated, cold when needed. Because in a world that obeys force, the one who governs themselves governs all. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? Listen to me carefully. You have been lied to your entire life, not by malicious intent, but by a world that benefits from your compliance. They told you to be humble. They told you to wait your turn. They told you that good things come to those who wait. These are the words of the weak, designed to keep you weak. I have studied power for centuries. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen men ascend to greatness and others crumble into dust. The difference is never talent. It is never luck. It is never timing. The difference is this. Some men understand they were born to command, and others spend their lives asking for permission. You were not born to react to life. You were born to shape it. Yet every morning you wake up and check your phone, letting others set the agenda for your day. You scroll through opinions that were never yours. You absorb emotions that don't belong to you. You react to problems you didn't create and chase solutions that lead nowhere. This is the mentality of the governed, not the governor. Here's what most people don't understand about power. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for recognition. Power is silent confidence, backed by relentless preparation. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he didn't send a message ahead asking if it was okay. He acted. When Napoleon took Corsica, he didn't wait for approval from Paris. He moved with the certainty of a man who knows his destiny. But you've been conditioned to seek approval. Every decision filtered through what others might think. Every move calculated not for effectiveness, but for comfort. This is how they keep you small. This is how they keep you manageable. I want you to understand something fundamental about human nature. We are not naturally equal. We are not naturally kind. We are naturally hierarchical, competitive, and strategic. The weak prefer to believe otherwise because it comforts them. But the strong understand that life is a game of influence, and influence is earned through competence, not compassion. You think you're being moral by putting others first, but what you're really doing is surrendering your throne. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach the world that your boundaries are negotiable. Every time you explain yourself to people who don't deserve explanations, you hand them power over your choices. Stop it. The world doesn't need another follower. It doesn't need another person who waits for instructions, who seeks consensus, who apologizes for taking up space. The world needs leaders. It needs people who can make decisions without committee approval. It needs individuals who can stand alone when everyone else sits down. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you made a decision that scared you? When was the last time you chose the difficult path because it was right, not because it was comfortable? When was the last time you said no to something everyone expected you to say yes to? If you can't answer these questions, you're not living. You're existing. You're reacting to a script someone else wrote for your life. The strongest leaders in history shared one trait. They refused to be victims of circumstance. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created them. They didn't hope for better opportunities. They seized the ones in front of them. They understood that fortune favors the bold, but only after the bold have prepared themselves to receive fortune's gifts. You have that same power within you. It's been there all along, buried under years of conditioning that taught you to be small, to be safe, to be acceptable. But acceptable men don't change the world. Acceptable men don't build empires. Acceptable men don't leave legacies that echo through centuries. It's time to remember who you really are, not who they told you to be, who you were born to be. A ruler, not a reactor. Every morning, you hand control of your mind to strangers. You check the news. You scroll social media. You read messages that demand immediate responses. Before you've even had a coherent thought of your own, you've already let 1,000 other voices into your head. This is how you lose before the day begins. The weak let the world speak first. The strong set the tone. I have observed that in every interaction, someone establishes dominance within the first 30 seconds, not through aggression, but through presence, not through volume, but through certainty. The person who speaks first is rarely the person who wins. The person who speaks with intention always is. You've been trained to fill silence with words, to respond immediately to every text, every email, every demand for your attention. This is the behavior of a servant, not a sovereign. When you react instantly, you reveal that you have no priorities more important than other people's urgencies. But here's what the powerful understand. Silence is a weapon. Pause is power. The person who can sit comfortably in quiet while others squirm with discomfort controls the room. They control the conversation. They control the outcome. Watch how the weak communicate. They explain themselves before being asked. They justify their decisions to people who have no authority over them. They seek permission for choices that are theirs to make. They apologize for existing, for having opinions, for taking up space. This is the language of the conquered. Now observe the powerful. They state their position once. They don't repeat themselves. They don't argue with people who aren't listening. They don't defend decisions that don't require defense. They understand. That over-explanation reveals weakness, and repetition reveals desperation. When someone challenges you, your instinct is to respond immediately. To defend, to prove your point, to win the argument. But this is exactly what they want. They want you reactive. They want you emotional. They want you responding to their agenda instead of advancing your own. Here's what most people don't understand about conflict. The person who gets emotional first loses. The person who raises their voice first loses. The person who feels compelled to have the last word has already surrendered their authority. Power doesn't argue. Power decides. Think about the last time someone tried to manipulate you through guilt, anger, or urgency. What did you do? Did you scramble to appease them? Did you explain yourself? Did you change your plans to accommodate their demands? If so, you taught them exactly how to control you next time. The world is full of people who mistake your politeness for weakness. They test your boundaries constantly, pushing to see how much you'll bend, how much you'll compromise, how much you'll sacrifice to avoid conflict. Every time you give ground you don't want to give, you invite more pressure. But let me ask you this. What would happen if you simply didn't respond? What if you let their anger sit in silence? What if you let their accusations hang in the air without rushing to defend yourself? What if you gave them nothing to push against? The strongest position is often no position at all. When you refuse to be drawn into other people's chaos, you force them to confront their own. When you don't react to their provocations, they must face the emptiness of their tactics. When you remain calm while they lose control, everyone watching knows who holds the real power. This doesn't mean you become passive. Passivity is weakness disguised as peace. What I'm describing is strategic non-engagement, choosing your battles not based on emotion but on advantage, responding when it serves your interests, staying silent when it serves your interests. Most people live their entire lives as supporting characters in other people's stories. They wake up to other people's schedules. They solve other people's problems. They chase other people's approval. They react to other people's moods. They never stop to ask the most important question, what do I want? Starting today, you set the tone. You decide what deserves your attention and what gets ignored. You choose which conversations to enter and which to walk away from. You determine the pace of your responses and the depth of your engagement. When someone sends you an angry message, don't respond immediately. Let them marinate in their own emotion while you consider whether this deserves any of your energy at all. When someone makes demands on your time, don't automatically comply. Ask yourself if this serves your mission or just their convenience. The world will always try to make you reactive. Your power lies in remaining responsive. Reaction is emotional. Response is strategic. The reactive person is controlled by circumstances. The responsive person controls their circumstances. You were not born to dance to other people's music. You were born to conduct your own orchestra. They will insult you. They will question your competence. They will mock your ambitions and criticize your methods. This is not personal. This is inevitable. The moment you decide to rise above the mediocrity that surrounds you, you become a target for those who have chosen to remain small. Your response to their attacks will determine whether you ascend or descend. Most people believe they must defend themselves against every slight, correct every misunderstanding, respond to every criticism. This is the thinking of the weak. When you fight every battle, you win none of them. When you respond to every provocation, you become predictable. When you let other people's opinions occupy space in your mind, you've already lost the war. Have studied the great leaders throughout history, and they all possessed one crucial skill, the ability to remain untouchable. Not physically untouchable, but emotionally untouchable. They understood that other people's words only have the power you give them. Here's what the weak don't understand. When someone attacks you, they're revealing their own insecurities, not exposing your weaknesses. They attack what they fear. They criticize what they cannot achieve. They mock what they secretly wish they could become, but you've been programmed to take everything personally. Someone questions your decision and you immediately feel the need to justify it. Someone doubts your abilities and you scramble to prove them wrong. Someone spreads lies about you and you exhaust yourself trying to correct the record. This is exactly what they want. They want you distracted. They want you defensive. They want you wasting your energy on battles that don't matter while they advance their own positions. The powerful understand something the weak never learn. Your reputation is not built on what you say about yourself. It's built on what you do when no one is watching. It's demonstrated through results, not rhetoric. It's proven through consistency, not conversation. When someone insults your work, don't defend it. Improve it. When someone questions your competence, don't argue with them. Demonstrate your competence. When someone spreads rumors about your character, don't chase them down to correct the narrative. Live in such a way that their lies become obviously absurd. But let me ask you this. How much of your mental energy do you waste thinking about what other people think of you? How many decisions do you make based on avoiding criticism instead of achieving excellence? How often do you dim your own light to avoid making others feel inadequate? This is not humility. This is self-sabotage. The moment you stop caring about the opinions of people who don't matter, you become dangerous. Not dangerous in a destructive way, but dangerous in a productive way. Dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to the status quo, dangerous to anyone who benefits from keeping you small. Indifference is not coldness. Indifference is clarity. When you stop letting other people's emotions dictate your responses, you can see situations for what they really are instead of how they make you feel. You can make decisions based on logic instead of reaction. You can move forward instead of being pulled backward by people who want to keep you at their level. Most insults are not about you at all. They're about the person delivering them. They're projecting their fears, their failures, their frustrations onto you because it's easier than facing their own inadequacies. When you understand this, their words lose all power over you, the strongest. Armor you can wear is complete indifference to the opinions of people whose opinions don't improve your life. When someone criticizes you, ask yourself one question. Does this person's success inspire me? If the answer is no, their criticism is worthless. Here's what happens when you become truly untouchable. People stop testing you. When they realize their words bounce off you like rain on stone, they move on to easier targets. When they see that you don't react to their provocations, they lose interest in provoking you. When they understand that you're focused on your mission, not their distractions, they either get out of your way or ask to join you. But becoming untouchable requires practice. Every day, someone will try to pull you into their drama. Every day, someone will attempt to make their emergency your priority. Every day, someone will test whether you're still the person who can be manipulated through guilt, anger, or false urgency. Your response in these moments determines your trajectory. Do you take the bait, or do you stay focused on your path? Do you defend yourself against accusations that don't deserve responses, or do you let your results speak for themselves? Do you engage with people who have proven they're not worth engaging with, or do you protect your energy for pursuits that actually matter? The world is full of people who will try to drag you down to their level. They cannot rise to yours, so they hope to convince you to descend to theirs. Your job is to become so focused on your own growth that their attempts to distract you become background noise you don't even notice. You cannot control what people say about you, but you can control whether their words have any impact on your actions. True power lies in complete immunity to the opinions of those whose lives you wouldn't want to live. From the moment you could speak, they began the process of breaking you. They called it education, but it was domestication. They taught you to sit still, raise your hand, wait for permission, follow instructions without question. They rewarded compliance and punished independent thought. This was not an accident. This was systematic conditioning designed to produce obedient workers, not sovereign leaders. You learned to ask before you acted, to seek approval before you decided, to apologize for your ambitions, and minimize your capabilities. You were taught that being ordinary was virtuous and that standing out was somehow selfish. They convinced you that your natural desire for excellence was arrogance that needed to be suppressed. Look around you now. See how many people still live by these rules. They wait for someone else to give them permission to pursue their dreams. They ask their boss if they can take a vacation from a job they hate. They seek validation from strangers on the internet before making decisions about their own lives. They have become so dependent on external approval that they've forgotten how to trust their own judgment. This is not strength. This is learned helplessness disguised as politeness. The system that raised you benefits from your uncertainty. It profits from your self-doubt. It thrives on your willingness to accept less than you deserve because you've been convinced that wanting more is greedy. They taught you to be grateful for scraps while they feast on abundance. But here's what they never told you. The rules that keep you small don't apply to the people who created them. While they taught you to be humble, they built empires. While they taught you to wait your turn, they cut in line. While they taught you to play fair, they rewrote the game in their favor. The powerful understand something the conditioned never. Learn. There are two sets of rules in this world, the rules for those who follow and the rules for those who lead. The followers are taught to color inside the lines. The leaders are taught to draw new lines entirely. You've been programmed to believe that success requires permission, that leadership requires appointment, that power requires someone else's blessing. These are the beliefs of people who will never rise above their circumstances because they're waiting for circumstances to change first. Here's what most people don't understand about conditioning. It only works if you accept it. The moment you recognize that someone else's limitations don't have to become your limitations, you break free from their control. The moment you realize that their fears don't have to become your fears, you reclaim your power. But let me ask you this. How many opportunities have you missed because you were waiting for someone to tell you that you were ready? How many dreams? Have you deferred because you were seeking permission from people who have no authority over your life? How many times have you dimmed your own light because someone told you that shining too brightly would make others uncomfortable? This is not consideration. This is self-betrayal. The education system taught you to memorize answers, not to question authority. It taught you to follow curricula, not to create your own path. It taught you to compete for grades, not to build something meaningful. It prepared you to be a good employee, not a great entrepreneur. It trained you to fit into existing systems, not to build new ones. But the world doesn't need more people who can follow instructions perfectly. It needs people who can write new instructions. It needs people who can see problems that others ignore and create solutions that others can't imagine. It needs people who can lead when there's no map, decide when there's no precedent, and act when everyone else is paralyzed by uncertainty. Society taught you to seek consensus before making decisions, but consensus is the enemy of innovation. When everyone agrees, no one is thinking. When everyone is comfortable, no one is growing. When everyone follows the same path, no one discovers new territories. The conditioning runs deep. You still catch yourself asking for permission you don't need. You still hesitate before speaking your mind in meetings. You still apologize for taking up space that belongs to you. You still doubt yourself when you should be doubting the systems that taught you to be small. Breaking free from conditioning isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Every day, you must choose between the safety of conformity and the risk of authenticity. Every day, you must decide whether to follow the script they wrote for your life or to write your own. Every day, you must resist the pull of mediocrity and embrace the responsibility of excellence. The weak remain conditioned because conditioning is comfortable. It removes the burden of making difficult decisions. It eliminates the risk of failure. It provides the illusion of safety in exchange for the reality of limitation. But you weren't born to be safe. You were born to be significant. You weren't created to follow someone else's plan for your life. You were created to design your own. You weren't meant to seek permission from people who lack the vision to see your potential. The conditioning that weakened you can become the foundation for your strength. Every rule they taught you to follow without question becomes a rule you can choose to break. Every limitation they convinced you to accept becomes a boundary you can choose to transcend. Every fear they programmed into you becomes courage waiting to be activated. You are not who they told you to be. You are who you choose to become. Human nature is not what they taught you in Sunday school. We are not naturally good, naturally cooperative, naturally fair. We are naturally competitive, naturally strategic, naturally hierarchical. Those who refuse to acknowledge this truth become prey for those who embrace it. You have been taught to believe that being civilized means suppressing your animal instincts. But civilization was not built by the meek. It was built by those who understood that sometimes you must be the fox, and sometimes you must be the lion. Sometimes you must be clever, and sometimes you must be feared. The fox survives through cunning. It outthinks its enemies, anticipates their moves, and always has an escape route planned. The fox doesn't fight battles. It cannot win. It doesn't announce its intentions. It moves in shadows and strikes when the moment is perfect. The lion survives through strength. It commands respect through presence alone. When the lion roars, lesser animals listen. When the lion decides to hunt, prey runs. The lion doesn't explain itself. It doesn't justify its position at the top of the food chain. It simply is what it is. Most people choose to be neither fox nor lion. They choose to be sheep. Sheep follow the herd. Sheep wait for someone else to lead them to safety. Sheep believe that if they're good enough, harmless enough, useful enough, the wolves will leave them alone. This is the mentality that gets you devoured. But here's what the sheep don't understand. In a world full of predators, being prey is a choice. You can choose to develop the cunning of the fox. You can choose to develop the strength of the lion. You can choose to become dangerous to those who would exploit your weakness. Look around you. See how the successful operate. They don't announce their strategies to competitors. They don't reveal their weaknesses to enemies. They don't trust people who haven't earned trust. They understand that business is war, relationships are negotiations, and life is a competition for limited resources. This doesn't make them evil. This makes them realistic. They've accepted the rules of the game instead of pretending the game doesn't exist. They've embraced their nature instead of trying to transcend it. They've learned to win instead of learning to lose gracefully. You've been taught that wanting to win is somehow immoral, that competing is unkind, that protecting your interests is selfish. These are the beliefs of people who have already lost and want you to lose with them. Winners think differently. Winners understand that the world rewards results, not intentions. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them the first time. When someone proves they cannot be trusted, don't give them a second chance to betray you. When someone demonstrates that they will take advantage of your kindness, stop being kind to them. This is not cruelty. This is intelligence. The fox knows that not every smile is friendly, not every offer is generous, not every person who claims to want your success actually wants your success. The fox studies people's motivations, not their words. It watches what they do when they think no one is watching. It prepares for betrayal while hoping for loyalty. But let me ask you this: how many times have you been naive when you should have been strategic? How many times have you trusted people who hadn't earned your trust? How many times have you given second chances to people who used their first chance to harm you? This is not compassion. This is self-destruction. The lion doesn't apologize for being powerful. It doesn't pretend to be weaker than it is to make others comfortable. It doesn't dim its roar because some animals find loud noises disturbing. The lion understands that respect is not given freely. It must be earned and maintained through consistent demonstration of strength. When you master the nature of both, fox and lion, you become truly formidable. You can outthink your opponents and overpower them when necessary. You can be strategic when strategy serves you, and direct when directness serves you. You can adapt to any situation because you understand that different circumstances require different approaches. Most people are predictable because they've chosen only one approach to life. They're always nice, always accommodating, always trying to please everyone. This makes them easy to manipulate. Or they're always aggressive, always confrontational, always trying to dominate through force. This makes them easy to avoid or undermine. But the person who can be both fox and lion is unpredictable. Unpredictability is power. When people cannot anticipate your response, they cannot prepare counter-strategies. When they don't know whether you'll outthink them or overpower them, they become cautious in their dealings with you. The weak believe that everyone operates from the same moral framework they do. They project their own honesty onto dishonest people. They assume their own good intentions exist in others. They believe that treating people well guarantees being treated well in return. This naive worldview leaves them vulnerable to those who understand that not everyone plays by the same rules. You must decide what kind of animal you are. Will you be the sheep who follows and hopes for protection? Will you be the fox who outsmarts but remains physically vulnerable? Will you be the lion who dominates but may lack subtlety? Or will you master both cunning and strength, becoming the apex predator in whatever environment you choose to hunt? The choice is yours. But choose wisely. In a world where others have already decided to be predators, remaining prey is not noble. It's simply foolish. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a decision backed by preparation. It's not positive thinking or self-affirmation or wishful delusion. It's the mathematical certainty that comes from knowing you've done the work, while others have made excuses. Most people wait to feel confident before they act. This is why most people never act at all. They wait for the fear to disappear, for the doubt to vanish, for the perfect moment when they feel absolutely certain. But confidence doesn't work that way. Confidence is built through action, not through waiting. You've been taught that confidence is something you either have or you don't, that some people are naturally confident while others are naturally insecure. This is a lie designed to keep you passive. Confidence is a skill that can be developed, a habit that can be cultivated, a weapon that can be forged through deliberate practice. Here's what the confident understand that the insecure never learn. Everyone is making it up as they go along. Everyone has doubts. Everyone feels uncertain. The difference is that confident people act despite their uncertainty, while insecure people use uncertainty as an excuse for inaction. When you see someone who appears unshakably confident, you're not seeing someone who never feels fear. You're seeing someone who has learned to function effectively while afraid. You're seeing someone who has practiced making decisions with incomplete information. You're seeing someone who has built their tolerance for discomfort through repeated exposure to discomfort. But let me ask you this. How many opportunities have you missed because you didn't feel ready? How many conversations have you avoided because you weren't sure what to say? How many risks have you refused to take because you couldn't guarantee the outcome? This is not prudence. This is paralysis disguised as caution. True confidence comes from competence. When you know you've prepared more thoroughly than your competition, you don't need to feel confident. You simply are confident. When you've practiced a skill until it becomes automatic, you don't need to psych yourself up. Your preparation speaks for itself. The weak try to build confidence through positive self-talk. They stand in front of mirrors and tell themselves they're capable, they're worthy, they're destined for success. But confidence built on words alone crumbles the moment it encounters real resistance. Real confidence is built on evidence, not affirmation. Every time you do something that scares you and survive, you build confidence. Every time you face a challenge and overcome it, you build confidence. Every time you commit to something difficult and follow through, you build confidence. Confidence is the compound interest of courage consistently applied. But here's what most people get wrong about confidence. They think it means you have to be loud, aggressive, or dominating. They think confidence requires constant self-promotion, or endless networking, or perpetual optimism. This is not confidence. This is insecurity, masquerading as confidence. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself because it's obvious in everything you do. It's in the way you walk into a room. It's in the way you speak without rushing. It's in the way you listen without planning your response. It's in the way you make decisions without seeking approval from people who have no authority over your life. Confident people don't argue with those who disagree with them. They don't defend their choices to people who wouldn't make better choices. They don't seek validation from individuals whose opinions don't improve their outcomes. They understand that needing everyone to understand your decisions is a sign of weakness, not strength. The most confident act you can perform is saying no without explanation. When someone asks you to do something that doesn't serve your interests, you don't owe them a detailed justification for declining. When someone questions your priorities, you don't need to defend them. When someone challenges your boundaries, you don't need to debate them. Confidence is also about accepting the consequences of your decisions without complaint. When you choose a path, you accept responsibility for where it leads. You don't blame others for outcomes you created. You don't make excuses for results you produced. You learn from failures and build on successes, but you don't waste energy on regret or resentment. Here's what happens when you develop real confidence. You stop seeking permission for decisions that are yours to make. You stop apologizing for achievements that required your sacrifice. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. You stop explaining yourself to people who lack the capacity to understand your vision. But building confidence requires you to do things that feel uncomfortable. You must have conversations you've been avoiding. You must take risks you've been postponing. You must stand up for yourself in situations where you've previously remained silent. You must bet on yourself when others are betting against you. The world is full of people who will try to shake your confidence. They'll question your qualifications, doubt your capabilities, predict your failure. Their goal is not to help you improve. Their goal is to reduce you to their level of limitation. Your job is to become so grounded in your own competence that their opinions become irrelevant background noise. Confidence is not about believing you'll never fail. It's about knowing that you'll recover from failure faster than your competition. It's about understanding that temporary setbacks don't determine permanent outcomes. It's about having the courage to begin again when beginning again is necessary. Stop waiting to feel confident. Start acting confident. The feeling will follow the action, not the other way around. In every room you enter, someone is gathering intelligence while others are revealing their weaknesses. Someone is listening while others are talking. Someone is observing while others are performing. The person who speaks first is rarely the person who wins. The person who listens longest usually is. You've been conditioned to fill silence with words, to prove your intelligence through constant commentary, to demonstrate your value through endless input. But this is the behavior of the insecure, not the influential. The truly powerful understand that information is currency, and those who speak too much are spending their wealth carelessly. When you walk into a meeting, a negotiation, a confrontation, your first instinct is to establish your position, to make your point, to defend your interests. But while you're talking, you're not learning. While you're explaining, you're not discovering. While you're justifying, you're not strategizing. The weak feel compelled to fill every pause with sound. They cannot tolerate the discomfort of silence. They interpret quiet as emptiness that must be filled, rather than space that must be respected. This compulsion to speak reveals their lack of confidence in their own presence. But here's what most people don't understand about power dynamics. The person who needs to talk is in the weaker position. They need to convince, to persuade, to justify. The person who can remain silent is in the stronger position. They're choosing their words, not being compelled to use them. Watch how the successful operate in high-stakes situations. They ask questions instead of making statements. They probe instead of proclaiming. They gather information instead of sharing it. They understand that knowledge is advantage, and advantage is never distributed equally or accidentally. When someone is angry, they talk. When someone is nervous, they talk. When someone is lying, they talk too much. When someone is trying to manipulate you, they fill your ears with words designed to overwhelm your judgment. But when someone is confident, when someone is powerful, when someone is in control, they listen. You've been taught that participation means constant contribution. That engagement requires endless input. That leadership demands perpetual speech. But this is not leadership. This is performance anxiety disguised as involvement. Real influence comes from understanding what others need before they understand it themselves. Real power comes from knowing what your opponents will do before they decide to do it. Real advantage comes from seeing patterns that others miss because they're too busy talking to observe. But let me ask you this. How much valuable information have you missed because you were planning what to say next? How many opportunities have you lost because you were focused on being heard instead of understanding what was being said? How many times have you revealed your strategy while trying to explain your position? This is not communication. This is strategic self-sabotage. The strongest negotiators let their opponents do most of the talking. They ask simple questions and let the other party reveal their desperation, their timeline, their bottom line. They sit in silence while others fill the space with concessions they never intended to make. When someone attacks you verbally, your instinct is to defend immediately. But defense reveals what you're protecting. When you rush to correct every misstatement, you show what matters to you. When you respond to every provocation, you demonstrate exactly which buttons others can push to control your behavior. Silence is not passivity. Silence is strategy. When you remain quiet while others expose themselves, you're collecting information they don't realize they're giving you. When you let them talk through their position completely, you understand their reasoning better than they do. The most powerful response to aggression is often no response at all. When someone attacks and you don't react, they must escalate or retreat. When they escalate, they reveal their desperation. When they retreat, they reveal their weakness. Either way, your silence has extracted valuable information about their character and their position. People will tell you everything you need to know about them if you just let them talk long enough. They'll reveal their fears, their motivations, their vulnerabilities, their plans. But only if you resist the urge to interrupt with your own agenda. In negotiations, the person who speaks first after a proposal often loses. In conflicts, the person who explains first often appears guilty. In competitions, the person who reveals their strategy first often hands their opponent the advantage they need to win. But here's what happens when you master the art of strategic silence. You stop being surprised by people's behavior because you've learned to recognize the patterns. You stop being manipulated by emotional appeals because you've observed how they're constructed. You stop being outmaneuvered in negotiations because you understand your opponent's position better than they do. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with intention rather than compulsion. It means you share information that serves your purposes, not information that serves theirs. It means you ask questions that extract value rather than making statements that give value. Away the weak mistake noise for communication. They confuse volume with authority. They believe that whoever talks longest wins the argument, but arguments aren't won through words. They're won through understanding. And understanding comes through listening, not speaking. Start paying attention to who talks first in your conversations. Notice who feels compelled to fill every silence. Observe who reveals more than they intend while trying to make their point. Then decide, do you want to be the person who talks or the person who knows? The choice will determine whether you're the hunter or the prey in every interaction that matters. Your energy is your most valuable resource, more precious than your time, more important than your money, more critical than your reputation. Yet, you give it away freely to people who wouldn't invest $1 in your success. You waste it on arguments that change nothing, explanations that fall on deaf ears, and relationships that drain more than they provide. Every morning you wake up with a finite amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy. By evening, that energy is either invested in your advancement or squandered on other people's priorities. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stagnant is not talent or luck. It's energy management. You leak power every time you argue with someone who isn't listening. Every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't deserve an explanation. Every time you chase someone who's running away from you. Every time you try to convince someone who's already decided not to be convinced. This is not persistence. This is energy hemorrhaging disguised as dedication. Look at how you spend your days. How much of your mental bandwidth is consumed by people who contribute nothing to your growth? How much of your emotional capacity is drained by relationships that exist only to serve the other person's needs? How much of your physical energy is depleted by activities that move you no closer to your goals? The weak believe that being available to everyone makes them valuable. They answer every call, respond to every message, attend every meeting, accept every invitation. They mistake busyness for productivity and availability for importance. But availability without selectivity is worthlessness disguised as service. Here's what most people don't understand about energy. It's not renewable within a single day. When you exhaust your mental energy on trivial decisions, you have less capacity for important ones. When you drain your emotional energy on other people's drama, you have less resilience for your own challenges. When you waste your physical energy on meaningless activities, you lack the vitality needed for meaningful pursuits. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you said no to something that everyone expected you to say yes to? When was the last time you refused to engage in an argument you couldn't win? When was the last time you walked away from a conversation that was going nowhere? If you can't answer these questions, you're not protecting your energy. You're giving it away to anyone who asks. The powerful understand that energy is currency. They don't spend it carelessly on low-value transactions. They don't invest it in people who provide no return. They don't waste it on activities that produce no measurable results. They guard their energy like a miser guards gold, because they understand that energy well spent compounds while energy wasted disappears forever. Every person in your life is either an energy source or an energy drain. The sources inspire you, challenge you, support your growth, and leave you feeling more capable than before you spoke with them. The drains complain constantly, create problems they won't solve, demand your attention without offering value in return, and leave you feeling depleted after every interaction. Most people surround themselves with drains because drains are easier to find. Drains seek you out. They call when they need something. They share their problems expecting you to solve them. They mistake your empathy for an invitation to dump their burdens on you. They consume your time, your attention, your emotional capacity, and they call it friendship. But sources are different. Sources have their own energy. They bring value to conversations instead of just taking it. They solve more problems than they create. They inspire you to think bigger, act bolder, and become better. They're harder to find because they're selective about who they invest their energy in. They understand the same principles you're learning. This doesn't mean you become callous or cruel. It means you become strategic about where you direct your compassion. It means you help people who are genuinely trying to help themselves, not people who are addicted to being helped. It means you engage with those who appreciate your input, not those who treat your wisdom as background noise. The moment you start protecting your energy, you'll discover how much of it you've been wasting. You'll realize that most of the conversations you have don't need to happen. Most of the meetings you attend accomplish nothing. Most of the arguments you engage in change nobody's mind. Most of the explanations you provide fall on ears that aren't interested in understanding. When someone drains your energy repeatedly, you don't owe them continued access to you. When someone takes your help for granted, you don't owe them more help. When someone disrespects your time, you don't owe them more time. When someone proves they're not worth your investment, divest. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. This is not abandonment. This is allocation of resources where they can produce the greatest return. Start treating your energy like the precious resource it is. Say no to requests that don't align with your priorities. Walk away from conversations that serve no purpose. End relationships that exist only to drain you. Stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. Stop arguing with people who aren't thinking. Your energy is not infinite. Your time is not unlimited. Your capacity is not boundless. People who respect these limitations deserve access to you. The people who don't respect these limitations don't deserve your continued investment. Build a fortress around your energy. Guard the gates carefully. Let in only those who add value to your life. Keep out those who only subtract from it. This is not isolation. This is elevation. You tell yourself you're too old to start, too far behind to catch up, too late to matter. These are the lies you use to justify remaining exactly where you are. The truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. You're not too late. You're just undisciplined. You don't lack time. You lack structure. You don't need more hours. You need better habits. Every day you waste time that you claim you don't have. You scroll through social media for hours while complaining there's no time to read. You watch television series while insisting there's no time to learn new skills. You gossip with coworkers while claiming there's no time to build your business. You have time. You're just using it poorly. The successful don't have more hours than you do. They have better systems. They don't have more energy than you do. They have clearer priorities. They don't have fewer obstacles than you do. They have greater discipline in overcoming obstacles. Discipline is not motivation. Motivation is a feeling that comes and goes like weather. Discipline is a system that works regardless of how you feel. Motivation gets you started. Discipline gets you finished. Motivation is why you begin. Discipline is why you succeed. You've been waiting for the perfect moment to start. The moment when you have more money, more time, more knowledge, more support. But perfect moments don't exist. They're manufactured by people who understand that waiting for perfection is an excuse for never starting at all. But here's what most people don't understand about timing. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is now. Every day you delay is a day your competition gains ground. Every week you postpone is a week closer to the regret of never trying. Every month you wait is a month of compound progress you'll never recover. But let me ask you this. what would you accomplish? In the next 6 months, if you stopped making excuses and started making progress, what could you build if you replaced entertainment with education? What could you achieve if you transformed your scattered efforts into focused action? The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is not talent, it's consistency. It's not intelligence, it's implementation. It's not opportunity, it's organization. Most people know what they should do. Very few people actually do what they know. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. It's the force that transforms dreams into plans and plans into results. Without discipline, your goals remain wishes. Your plans remain fantasies. Your potential remains unrealized. The undisciplined make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. They eat when they're not hungry. They sleep when they should be working. They procrastinate when they should be producing. They seek comfort when they should be embracing discomfort. They choose the easy path when the difficult path leads to their destination. But the disciplined understand that feelings are temporary and unreliable. They eat according to their nutritional needs, not their emotional cravings. They sleep according to their energy requirements, not their comfort preferences. They work according to their professional obligations, not their motivation levels. They choose actions based on outcomes, not impulses. You think you need more willpower, but willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. What you need is better systems, systems that make good choices automatic, systems that eliminate the need for constant decision-making, systems that create momentum instead of requiring motivation. The powerful don't rely on their mood to determine their actions. They rely on their schedule. They don't wait to feel like exercising. They exercise at the same time every day until it becomes as automatic as brushing their teeth. They don't wait to feel like working. They work during designated hours regardless of their emotional state. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. They expect immediate results from minimal effort. They want transformation without dedication. They seek success without sacrifice. But success is not an event. It's a process. And processes require patience, persistence, and precision. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. Every success story was once a struggle story. The only difference between those who made it and those who didn't is that those who made it didn't stop when it became difficult. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else, the same 7 days in a week, the same 12 months in a year. The difference in outcomes comes from how you use those hours, days, and months. Time is democratic. Results are not. Stop waiting for Monday to start your diet. Stop waiting for January to begin your fitness routine. Stop waiting for next year to launch your business. Stop waiting for more time to learn that skill. Stop waiting for perfect conditions to take imperfect action. The calendar doesn't care about your excuses. The competition doesn't wait for you to get organized. The market doesn't pause while you figure out your priorities. While you're waiting for the right moment, others are creating the right momentum. Discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. Freedom from the chaos of disorganization. Freedom from the stress of last-minute scrambling. Freedom from the regret of unrealized potential. When you master discipline, you master your destiny. Start today. Start imperfectly. Start scared. Start unprepared. But start. Because the person you'll become through consistent action is more important than the perfection you'll never achieve through endless preparation. You're not too late. You're just getting started. You make yourself too available, too accessible, too predictable. You answer every call, respond to every message, attend every meeting, accept every invitation. You believe this makes you valuable, but it makes you common. What's always available has no special worth. What can be accessed anytime is never truly appreciated. The weak confuse availability with importance. They think being constantly present makes them indispensable. But presence without purpose is just visibility without value. When you're always there, people stop noticing when you're there. When you never say no, your yes becomes meaningless. Scarcity creates value. Limited access increases demand. When something is rare, people want it more. When something is abundant, people take it for granted. This principle governs everything from precious metals to human relationships. Yet you give yourself away like a free sample, wondering why people don't treat you like a premium product. Here's what most people don't understand about human psychology. We value what we have to work for and dismiss what comes too easily. We respect what we might lose and ignore what we're guaranteed to keep. We chase what moves away from us and avoid what chases us. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone had to earn your attention? When was the last time someone had to wait for your response? When was the last time someone wondered if you would show up rather than assuming you would? If you can't answer these questions, you've trained people to take you for granted. Watch how the successful operate. They don't respond to messages immediately. They make people wait for their attention. They decline invitations that don't serve their interests. They're selective about who gets access to their time and energy. They understand that being hard to reach makes people want to reach them more. This is not playing games. This is understanding the game that's already being played, whether you acknowledge it or not. Every relationship operates on principles of supply and demand. When you oversupply your availability, you create no demand for your presence. The most powerful people you know are also the hardest to schedule. They don't apologize for their busy calendars. They don't rearrange their priorities to accommodate other people's urgencies. They don't feel guilty for having boundaries. They understand that their time is their most valuable asset, and assets that are given away freely lose their worth. You've been conditioned to believe that good people are always available to help. That caring means being constantly accessible. That friendship requires immediate responsiveness. But this is not virtue. This is a recipe for being undervalued by everyone, including yourself. When you always say yes, people stop appreciating your agreement. When you never say no, people stop respecting your boundaries. When you're constantly available, people stop planning around your schedule. When you always accommodate others, people stop accommodating you. The paradox of human nature is that we want most what we can't have and dismiss what we can easily obtain. This applies to relationships, opportunities, and experiences. The person who's always willing to help gets taken for granted. The person who sometimes says no gets their yes valued. But here's what happens when you become strategically unavailable. People start planning around your schedule instead of expecting you to plan around theirs. They start appreciating your presence instead of assuming it. They start treating your time as valuable instead of treating it as free. This doesn't mean you become cruel or unresponsive. It means you become selective. You help people who appreciate help, not people who expect it. You give your time to those who value it, not those who waste it. You invest your energy in relationships that provide mutual benefit, not one-sided service arrangements. The weak fear that if they're not constantly available, people will stop needing them. But the opposite is true. When you're always available, people don't need you. They expect you. Need implies scarcity. Expectation implies abundance. You want to be needed, not expected. Start saying no without explanation. Start delaying your responses. Start declining invitations that don't interest you. Start making people wait for your attention. Start treating your time like the precious resource it is instead of giving it away like it's worthless. When someone expects immediate responses to non-urgent messages, let them wait. When someone assumes you'll always be available for their emergencies, occasionally be unavailable. When someone takes your helpfulness for granted, stop being helpful until they remember to be grateful. This is not manipulation. This is education. You're teaching people how to treat you. When you accept poor treatment, you train people to treat you poorly. When you demand better treatment, you train people to treat you better. The most respected people in any field are also the most selective. They choose their projects carefully. They pick their associations strategically. They guard their reputations jealously. They understand that saying yes to everything means saying no to excellence. Your absence must become more noticeable than your presence. Your silence must become more powerful than your words. Your selectivity must become more valuable than your availability. When people know they can't take you for granted, they stop trying to. Distance creates respect. Scarcity creates value. Selectivity creates demand. When you master these principles, you stop being taken for granted and start being truly appreciated. But it requires you to resist the urge to always be helpful, always be available, always be accommodating. It requires you to understand that being wanted is better than being needed, and being respected is better than being liked. Make them miss you before they can dismiss you. Your words are weapons. They can build empires or destroy them. They can create allies or manufacture enemies. They can open doors or close them forever. Yet you treat them carelessly, speaking without thinking, reacting without calculating, explaining when you should be commanding. Every word you speak either adds to your authority or subtracts from it. Every sentence either builds your reputation or erodes it. Every conversation either positions you as powerful or reveals you as weak. There is no neutral ground in communication. You're either winning or losing with every word. You've been taught to fill silence with speech, to explain your positions extensively, to justify your decisions thoroughly, to make sure everyone understands your reasoning completely. But this is not communication. This is insecurity disguised as transparency. The powerful understand that words lose force through repetition, that explanations weaken with elaboration, that justifications become desperate when extended. They speak once and move on. They state their position and let others adapt to it. They don't argue. They decide. But here's what most people get wrong about communication. They think more words equal more clarity. They believe longer explanations equal better understanding. They assume detailed justifications equal increased respect. But the opposite is true. The more you explain, the more you reveal your uncertainty. The more you justify, the more you appear to need justification. Watch how the weak communicate. They preface their statements with apologies. They cushion their opinions with qualifiers. They weaken their positions with unnecessary explanations. They say, I think, I believe, maybe, perhaps, possibly. They turn statements into questions. They make suggestions sound like requests. But observe how the powerful speak. They make declarations, not suggestions. They state facts, not opinions. They give commands, not requests. They say, this will happen, instead of this might happen. They say, I've decided, instead of I'm thinking about. They eliminate uncertainty from their language because uncertainty is contagious. When you speak with precision, people listen with attention. When you speak with authority, people respond with respect. When you speak with economy, people remember your words. When you speak with purpose, people take action. But let me ask you this. How many times have you weakened your position by over-explaining it? How many times have you lost authority by seeking approval for decisions that were yours to make? How many times have you diminished your power by asking permission instead of announcing intentions? Every unnecessary word is a leak in your authority. Every qualification is a crack in your confidence. Every explanation that wasn't requested is evidence of your insecurity. The strong don't need to convince. They simply inform. Most people talk to think. They use conversation to process their thoughts rather than to communicate their conclusions. They speak to fill time rather than to accomplish objectives. They use words as placeholders for silence rather than as tools for influence. But precision requires preparation. Before you speak, know what you want to achieve. Before you explain, know what outcome you're seeking. Before you argue, know what victory looks like. If you can't define your objective, you shouldn't open your mouth. The most powerful word in any language is no. It requires no explanation. It admits no negotiation. It accepts no qualification. When you say no and stop speaking, you force others to either accept your position or reveal their true intentions. but precision also means knowing when not to speak at all. Silence is often more powerful than speech. When someone attacks you, verbally, silence is often the strongest response. When someone tries to draw you into an argument, silence can be the ultimate victory. When someone demands explanations you're not required to give, silence protects your authority. Every conversation has a winner and a loser. The winner is usually the person who speaks with greater precision, not greater volume. The winner is the person who wastes fewer words, not the person who uses more. The winner is the person who controls the conversation's direction, not the person who talks longest. Start eliminating unnecessary words from your vocabulary. Stop saying "I think" when you mean "I know." Stop saying "maybe" when you mean "yes" or "no." Stop saying "I'll try" when you mean "I will" or "I won't." Stop asking for permission when you should be announcing decisions. When someone asks for your opinion, give it clearly and stop talking. When someone challenges your position, state your reasoning once and move on. When someone tries to argue, with your decision, remind them that it's not a debate. Your words should land like arrows, not scatter like buckshot. They should cut with precision, not bludgeon with repetition. They should create clarity, not confusion. They should demonstrate strength, not reveal weakness. The world is full of people who talk constantly but say nothing, who use many words to communicate little meaning, who speak loudly but lack authority, who explain extensively but persuade no one. Don't be one of them. Speak with the precision of a surgeon and the economy of a poet. Say what you mean what you say. Then stop talking and let your words do their work. In a world drowning in noise, clarity cuts through like a blade. In a culture of endless explanation, decisive communication becomes a superpower. When everyone else is talking, the person who speaks with precision and purpose becomes impossible to ignore. Use your words like a master craftsman uses his tools, with intention, with skill, with devastating effectiveness. Life is not a game with rules that everyone follows. It's a competition where some people play by honor codes that others exploit for advantage. While you worry about being fair, your competition worries about being effective. While you concern yourself with playing nice, they concern themselves with playing to win. You've been taught that cheaters never prosper, that good guys finish first, that karma ensures justice. These are beautiful lies told to keep good people from becoming dangerous competitors. The truth is harsher and more useful. Life rewards results, not methods. History remembers winners, not saints. The world is divided into two types of people: those who believe in universal fairness and those who understand that fairness is a luxury only the powerful can afford. The powerless cling to fairness because it's all they have. The powerful create fairness when it serves them and abandon it when it doesn't. But here's what most people don't understand about competition. Everyone else is already playing by different rules. While you're concerned with being ethical, others are concerned with being profitable. While you're worried about being moral, others are worried about being successful. While you're focused on being right, others are focused on being rich. This doesn't mean you become dishonest or cruel. It means you become realistic about the game being played around you. It means you stop handicapping yourself with rules that your opponents aren't following. It means you understand that in a world without referees, the only rules that matter are the ones you can enforce. You negotiate with people who lie about their bottom line. You compete with businesses that cut corners you won't cut. You work in environments where credit is stolen and blame is assigned strategically. You live in a world where being good is often punished and being clever is always rewarded. But let me ask you this. How many opportunities have you lost because you were too honest in negotiations? How many promotions have gone to people who were less qualified but more political? How many times have you watched inferior competitors succeed because they were willing to do things you weren't? This is not injustice. This is reality. And reality doesn't care about your moral preferences. The most successful people in any field understand leverage. They know what others want and what others fear. They use this knowledge to create advantageous positions for themselves. They don't win through superior products or services alone. They win through superior understanding of human nature and market dynamics. When someone tells you business isn't personal, they're preparing to do something personal to you. When someone emphasizes fairness, they're usually about to be unfair. When someone talks about playing by the rules, they're often breaking different rules you don't know about. This is not cynicism. This is pattern recognition. When you understand how people actually behave instead of how they claim to behave, you stop being surprised by outcomes that seemed unfair but were actually predictable. The weak believe that if they follow all the rules, they'll be rewarded appropriately. They think that hard work automatically equals success. They assume that being good to others guarantees being treated well in return. These beliefs are not just naive, they're strategically dangerous. But the strong understand that rules exist to control behavior, not to ensure outcomes. They know that hard work without strategic thinking leads to exhaustion, not advancement. They realize that being good to others is admirable, but must be balanced with being good to yourself. This doesn't mean you become unethical. It means you become sophisticated about ethics. You help people who help you. You're honest with people who are honest with you. You're fair to people who are fair to you. You match energy, not exceed it. When someone plays dirty against you, responding with purity isn't noble, it's ineffective. When someone breaks their word to you, honoring your word to them isn't virtuous. It's foolish. When someone takes advantage of your goodness, continuing to be good to them isn't righteous. It's enabling. The most dangerous competitors are those who appear ethical while being strategic. They don't break laws, but they bend rules. They don't lie outright, but they manipulate through selective truth-telling. They don't cheat, but they understand that different games have different winning conditions. You can maintain your integrity while abandoning your naivety. You can remain honest while becoming strategic. You can keep your principles while learning to protect your interests. The goal is not to become someone you despise. The goal is to become someone your competition respects. In negotiations, information is power. In business, timing is everything. In relationships, leverage determines outcomes. In careers, perception often matters more than performance. These are not moral statements. They're operational realities. The world doesn't owe you success because you played by rules that others ignore. It doesn't owe you fairness because you were fair to others. It doesn't owe you anything because you were good. The world responds to what you demonstrate, not what you deserve. Start thinking in terms of advantage, not just ethics. Consider leverage, not just logic. Evaluate what works, not just what's right. This doesn't corrupt your character. It completes your education. The game is already rigged. The question is whether you'll figure out how it's rigged and adapt accordingly, or whether you'll continue playing by rules that guarantee your loss while wondering why good people don't win. Stop handicapping yourself with standards that your competition doesn't share. Start playing the game that's actually being played, not the game you wish were being played. The only unfair advantage is the one you refuse to develop. The moment most people break is the moment the powerful are forged. When life applies pressure, the weak crumble while the strong crystallize. When circumstances become difficult, the mediocre quit while the exceptional adapt. When pain arrives, the masses retreat while the masters advance. You've been taught that pain is something to avoid, minimize, or escape. That suffering is meaningless, and comfort is the goal. That struggle indicates something is wrong, and ease indicates something is right. But this is the thinking of those who will remain weak forever. Pain is not punishment. Pain is tuition. It's the price you pay for becoming someone stronger than you were yesterday. It's the cost of developing capabilities you didn't know you possessed. It's the investment required to build resilience that can't be taught, only earned. Every person you admire has been forged in fires you've never faced. Every leader you respect has survived pressures that would crush most people. Every success story you study is built on foundations of failure, rejection, and temporary defeat. But they didn't see these experiences as obstacles. They saw them as opportunities to become who they needed to become. The weak run from discomfort. They seek the path of least resistance. They choose careers that are easy, relationships that are comfortable, and goals that are achievable without struggle. They mistake safety for success and confuse avoiding pain with achieving happiness. But here's what they don't understand. Avoiding pain doesn't eliminate it, it just delays it. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. The pain of improvement is temporary. The pain of remaining the same is permanent. But let me ask you this. What have you learned about yourself during easy times? What strength have you developed when everything was going well? What character have you built when life was comfortable? The answer is little to none. Growth happens in discomfort. Strength develops under pressure. Character forms in crisis. The person you become when everything is perfect is not the person you'll need to be when everything goes wrong. Most people pray for easier lives. But easier lives don't create stronger people. They create weaker people with fewer capabilities and less resilience. The successful pray for greater strength to handle greater challenges. They understand that the size of their problems determines the size of their growth. When you face rejection, you develop persistence. When you encounter failure, you build resilience. When you experience loss, you gain perspective. When you endure hardship, you forge character. Every painful experience carries within it the seeds of the strength you'll need for future battles. The powerful don't avoid pain. They embrace it as information. Physical pain tells them where their body needs attention. Emotional pain tells them where their mindset needs adjustment. Financial pain tells them where their strategy needs improvement. Social pain tells them where their boundaries need strengthening, but the weak interpret pain as evidence that they're on the wrong path. They change direction whenever things become difficult. They quit when results don't come quickly. They abandon goals when the work becomes demanding. They mistake the discomfort of growth for the danger of damage. This is why most people never become who they're capable of becoming. They retreat at the first sign of resistance. They surrender when victory requires sacrifice. They choose immediate comfort over long-term achievement. They trade their potential for the illusion of safety. The strongest people you know are not those who never experienced pain. They're those who experienced pain and decided to become someone it couldn't defeat. They transform their wounds into wisdom, their scars into strength, their failures into fuel for future success. When life hits you with unexpected challenges, ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? What strength is it trying to build in me? What weakness is it trying to reveal so I can address it? What capability is it trying to develop so I can handle greater responsibilities? Every setback contains a setup for a comeback. Every breakdown precedes a breakthrough. Every ending creates space for a new beginning. But only if you resist the temptation to see pain as pointless and start seeing it as purposeful. The pain you're experiencing right now is not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's building muscles you'll need for battles you haven't fought yet. It's developing skills you'll use for opportunities you haven't seen yet. It's creating character you'll need for leadership positions you haven't earned. Yet, most people want success without struggle, strength without sacrifice, victory without battle. But nature doesn't work that way. The butterfly must struggle to emerge from the cocoon, or it will never develop the strength to fly. The muscle must be broken down before it can be built up stronger. The metal must be heated and hammered before it becomes a weapon. Stop running from pain. Start running toward purpose. Stop avoiding discomfort. Start embracing development. Stop seeing struggle as evidence that you're on the wrong path. Start seeing it as proof that you're on the path to power. The pain you experience today builds the strength you'll need tomorrow. The pressure you feel right now is forging the character you'll require later. The difficulty you're facing at this moment is developing the capabilities you'll use for the rest of your life. This is not suffering. This is education. This is not punishment. This is preparation. This is not damage. This is development. Power grows in pain. Strength develops in struggle. Greatness emerges from difficulty. The question is not whether you'll face challenges. The question is whether you'll use those challenges to become the person capable of overcoming even greater ones. You cannot lift others while you're drowning. You cannot give what you don't possess. You cannot save people who are determined to destroy themselves. Yet you exhaust yourself trying to rescue those who won't grab the rope, fix those who won't admit they're broken, and help those who mistake. Your assistance for weakness. The weak believe that self-sacrifice equals virtue. That putting others first demonstrates nobility. That helping everyone proves worthiness. But this is not compassion. This is self-destruction disguised as service. You cannot serve from emptiness. You cannot lead from weakness. You cannot give from poverty. Every airline understands what most people don't. In an emergency, you put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Not because you're selfish, but because you're useless to everyone if you're unconscious. Not because others don't matter, but because you can't help anyone if you can't help yourself. Yet you live your life doing the opposite. You give your last dollar to people who waste money. You spend your precious time solving problems for people who create more problems than they solve. You exhaust your emotional energy supporting people who drain everyone around them. This is not kindness. This is enabling. This is not love. This is dysfunction. This is not helping. This is harming both yourself and the people you think you're saving. But here's what most people don't understand about helping others. When you rescue people from consequences they should face, you rob them of lessons they need to learn. When you solve problems they should solve themselves, you keep them weak and dependent. When you give people what they haven't earned, you teach them that effort is optional. But let me ask you this. How many people have you helped who became stronger because of your help? How many people have you rescued who learned to rescue themselves? How many people have you supported who eventually supported others? If you can't answer these questions positively, you're not helping people. You're hurting them. You're creating dependency instead of capability. You're producing weakness instead of strength. The powerful understand that the best help you can give someone is often no help at all. Let them struggle. Let them figure it out. Let them develop their own strength. Let them learn that they're more capable than they believed. Your refusal to rescue them forces them to rescue themselves. This doesn't mean you become heartless. It means you become strategic about your compassion. You help people who are genuinely trying to help themselves. You support those who use your support to become more independent, not more dependent. You invest in people who show appreciation, not people who show entitlement. Most people who constantly need help don't actually need help. They need attention. They need drama. They need someone to blame when their choices produce predictable consequences. They need someone to rescue them so they never have to learn to swim. These people will drain your energy, waste your time, and give you nothing in return except more problems to solve. They will take your generosity for granted and interpret your boundaries as cruelty. They will demand more help while doing less work. They will expect you to care more about their life than they do. Stop feeding this dysfunction. Stop enabling this behavior. Stop participating in this pattern. When someone asks for help, ask yourself, will helping this person make them stronger or weaker? Will my assistance teach them to be more capable or more dependent? Will they use my support to stand on their own or to lean on me forever? The strongest leaders surround themselves with strong people. They don't collect broken people to fix. They don't accumulate weak people to rescue. They align themselves with individuals who add value rather than subtract it. They understand that who you help determines who you become. Your mission in life is not to be everyone's savior. Your purpose is not to fix everyone's problems. Your calling is not to sacrifice your potential so others can remain comfortable in their dysfunction. Your responsibility is to become the best version of yourself and then help others who are committed to doing the same. This means saying no to people who want you to enable their weakness. This means refusing to solve problems for people who won't solve problems for themselves. This means declining to rescue people who keep making the same mistakes. This means choosing to invest your limited time and energy in relationships that produce mutual growth rather than one-sided sacrifice. When you build your own strength first, you become capable of lifting others. When you establish your own stability first, you become able to stabilize others. When you achieve your own success first, you become equipped to help others succeed. But you cannot give what you don't have. The people worth helping don't need constant help. They need occasional guidance, temporary support, strategic advice. They take your input and multiply it through their own effort. They use your assistance as a springboard, not a crutch. They appreciate your investment and eventually make investments in others. But the people not worth helping need everything done for them. They need constant rescuing, perpetual supporting, endless explaining. They take your input and waste it through their own negligence. They use your assistance as an entitlement, not an opportunity. They consume your generosity and produce nothing in return. Stop trying to save everyone. Start trying to save yourself. Build your own fortress before trying to defend others. Develop your own strength before trying to strengthen others. Achieve your own success before trying to ensure others' success. The world doesn't need more martyrs, it needs more masters. It doesn't need more people who sacrifice themselves for others. It needs more people who become powerful enough to lift others without destroying themselves in the process. Save yourself first, not because others don't matter, but because you can't help them if you don't help yourself. Not because you're more important, but because you're more useful when you're strong. Not because you should be selfish, but because you should be effective. You can't save everyone, but you can save yourself. And when you do, you become someone worth saving others for. Your reputation is the only thing that survives your physical absence. It speaks for you when you're not in the room. It opens doors before you arrive and closes them after you leave. It determines who wants to work with you, who wants to work against you, and who wants to avoid you entirely. Yet most people treat their reputation carelessly. They say things they don't mean, make promises they don't keep, and behave in ways that contradict their stated values. They believe reputation is about perception, not reality. They think image matters more than substance. They're wrong. Reputation is not what people say about you when you're present. It's what they say about you when you're absent. It's not how they treat you to your face. It's how they describe you behind your back. It's not what they think about you when you're useful to them. It's what they think about you when you're not. The weak try to manage their reputation through self-promotion. They talk about their accomplishments, advertise their virtues, and explain their good intentions. But reputation built on words alone crumbles under scrutiny. Real reputation is built through consistent action over extended time. It cannot be manufactured quickly or maintained cheaply. But here's what most people don't understand about reputation. It's not about being liked by everyone. It's about being respected by the people who matter. It's not about being popular. It's about being powerful. It's not about being comfortable. It's about being competent. Some of the most respected people in history were not well liked by their contemporaries. They made difficult decisions that served long-term interests rather than short-term popularity. They chose effectiveness over likability. They built their reputation on results, not relationships. But let me ask you this. What do people say about you when you're not around? Do they describe you as someone who delivers on promises or someone who makes excuses? Do they characterize you as reliable or unpredictable? Do they see you as competent or confused? If you don't know the answers to these questions, you don't understand your own reputation. And if you don't understand your reputation, you can't manage it effectively. Your reputation precedes you into every room, every meeting, every opportunity. When your name comes up in conversations you're not part of, what associations do people make? When someone mentions your work, Do people lean in with interest or lean back with skepticism? When opportunities arise that require your type of skills, are you the first person they think of or the last? The powerful understand that reputation is both armor and weapon. Good reputation protects you from attacks that would destroy others. It deflects criticism that would stick to someone with weaker credibility. It provides benefit of the doubt when circumstances are unclear. It creates presumption of competence until proven otherwise. But reputation is also offensive. It opens doors that remain closed to others. It creates opportunities that don't exist for those with poor reputations. It attracts allies and resources. It enables influence beyond your immediate presence or direct authority. This is why attacks on reputation are so dangerous. When someone damages your credibility, they damage your ability to influence, to lead, to succeed. When they undermine trust in your character, they undermine access to opportunities. When they weaken belief in your competence, they weaken your power to affect change. You must defend your reputation more carefully than you defend your bank account. Money can be replaced, time can be redirected, energy can be restored. But reputation, once lost, is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. Trust, once broken, may never be fully repaired. Every action you take either builds or erodes your reputation. Every promise you make creates expectation. Every commitment you accept establishes accountability. Every word you speak becomes part of the permanent record that others use to evaluate your character and predict your future behavior. The wise are therefore extremely careful about what they promise. They underpromise and overdeliver. They commit only to what they can control. They stake their reputation on outcomes they can influence rather than results that depend on factors beyond their authority. But reputation is not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about demonstrating excellence consistently. It's about being remarkable in ways that matter to people who matter. It's about building a track record that speaks louder than any marketing campaign you could create. When people think of competence in your field, they should think of you. When they think of reliability in your industry, your name should come to mind. When they think of innovation in your area, you should be among the first examples they consider. This level of reputation cannot be achieved through networking or self-promotion alone. It requires sustained superior performance. Your reputation must be earned through actions, not inherited through associations. It must be built through delivery, not constructed through promises. It must be maintained through consistency, not sustained through publicity. Most people worry too much about what others think of them in the moment, and too little about what others will remember about them over time. They focus on immediate approval rather than lasting respect. They prioritize being liked today over being trusted tomorrow, but the powerful think differently. They make decisions based on how those decisions will affect their reputation 10 years from now, not 10 minutes from now. They choose short-term discomfort to build long-term credibility. They accept immediate unpopularity to establish permanent respect. Your reputation is your legacy in real time. It's the crown you wear, whether you're in public or private, whether you're successful or struggling, whether you're rising or falling. It determines not just how high you can climb, but how far you can fall and still recover. Build it carefully, guard it fiercely. Let it speak for you when your voice cannot be heard. Predictability is weakness, disguised as reliability. When people know exactly how you'll respond to every situation, they can manipulate your responses. When they understand your patterns completely, they can exploit your consistency. When they can anticipate your moves, they can counter them before you make them. You've been taught that being predictable makes you trustworthy. That consistency equals reliability. That transparency demonstrates integrity. But this thinking belongs to those who will never hold real power. The powerful understand that mystery breeds respect while familiarity breeds contempt. When people cannot predict your next move, they must treat you with caution, when they cannot anticipate your own response. They cannot prepare counter strategies. When they don't know your limits, they must assume you have none. When they can't read your intentions, they must respect your capabilities. But here's what most people get wrong about unpredictability. They think it means being chaotic, random, or inconsistent. They confuse unpredictability with unreliability. They mistake mystery for dishonesty. True unpredictability is strategic, not spontaneous. It's calculated, not careless. The weak reveal everything about themselves in their desperate need to be understood. They explain their motivations, share their strategies, broadcast their intentions. They believe that transparency creates trust, but transparency actually creates vulnerability. When you reveal everything, you control nothing. Watch how children operate before they're trained to be predictable. They can be charming one moment and defiant the next. They can be cooperative when it serves them and stubborn when it doesn't. They shift strategies quickly when one approach isn't working. This natural unpredictability gives them power over adults who try to control them through conventional methods. But adults are trained out of this strategic flexibility. They're taught to be consistent, reliable, predictable. They're conditioned to respond the same way to similar stimuli. They become programmable rather than powerful. The most successful people you know are not the most predictable. They're adaptable. They respond to different situations with different strategies. They use different approaches with different people. They cannot be boxed into simple categories or controlled through simple methods. But let me ask you this. How many times have people taken advantage of your predictable good nature? How many times have they manipulated your consistent patterns? How many times have they counted on your reliable responses to get what they wanted from you? If you can answer these questions, you understand why predictability is dangerous. When people know exactly how you'll react, they can engineer situations to produce the reactions they want. They can push the buttons that make you respond in ways that serve their interests, not yours. The powerful maintain strategic ambiguity about their intentions, their capabilities, and their limits. They don't announce their plans in advance. They don't reveal their full capabilities until necessary. They don't telegraph their emotional state or their decision-making process. This doesn't mean they're dishonest. It means they're strategic. They understand that information is power, and power shared carelessly is power lost completely. They reveal what serves their purposes and conceal what doesn't. They show their strength when it creates respect and hide it when it creates fear. Mystery creates fascination. When people cannot fully understand you, they become intrigued by you. When they cannot predict you, they pay attention to you. When they cannot control you, they respect you. When they cannot manipulate you, they treat you as an equal or superior. But mystery must be combined with competence. Being unpredictable without being capable is just being unreliable. Being mysterious without being useful is just being irrelevant. The goal is not to be confusing. The goal is to be compelling. When you do reveal your power, it should be decisive and overwhelming. When you do show your capabilities, they should exceed expectations. When you do take action, it should be swift and effective. The combination of mystery and competence creates an aura of dangerous capability that commands respect. Most people operate from a limited playbook. They use the same strategies repeatedly. They respond to similar situations in similar ways. They become predictable because they lack the imagination or courage to vary their approach. This makes them easy to counter, easy to manipulate, easy to defeat. But the unpredictable have multiple strategies for every situation. They can be diplomatic when diplomacy serves them, and direct when directness serves them. They can be generous when generosity creates advantage, and selective when selectivity creates respect. They adapt their approach to the circumstances, rather than forcing circumstances to adapt to their limited range of responses. The key is intentional unpredictability, not random chaos. You're not trying to confuse people for the sake of confusion. You're maintaining strategic flexibility that prevents others from developing effective counters to your methods. You're keeping your options open while forcing others to prepare for multiple possibilities. When someone expects you to be angry, be calm. When they expect you to argue, be silent. When they expect you to react emotionally, respond logically. When they expect you to be accommodating, be firm. Not because contrarianism is inherently good, but because unpredictability is inherently powerful. This requires you to develop multiple capabilities, multiple strategies, multiple responses to similar challenges. You cannot be unpredictable if you only know one way to handle conflict, one way to negotiate, one way to lead. Unpredictability requires depth, sophistication, and strategic thinking. But here's what happens when you master strategic unpredictability. People stop trying to manipulate you because they don't know which strategy will work. They stop taking you for granted because they can't predict your responses. They start treating you with respect because they recognize they're dealing with someone who cannot be easily controlled or understood. Make them guess your next move while you execute it flawlessly. Keep them wondering about your capabilities while you demonstrate them decisively. Let them underestimate you until it's too late for them to adjust their strategy. Mystery is power. Predictability is weakness. The choice between them determines whether you control others or they control you. You're waiting for someone to recognize your potential and hand you the power you deserve. You're hoping your boss will notice your contributions and promote you. You're expecting the world to reward your talent with opportunities. You're waiting for permission to become who you're capable of becoming. This is why you're still waiting. Power is never given freely. It's never handed out fairly. It's never distributed based on merit alone. Those who have power guard it jealously. Those who could give you power benefit from keeping it for themselves. Those who control opportunities prefer to maintain control rather than share it. The powerful understand something the powerless never learn. No one is coming to save you. No one is monitoring your progress to ensure you get what you deserve. No one is keeping score to make sure talented people are properly rewarded. The game is rigged in favor of those who already won it, and they have no interest in changing the rules. But here's what most people get wrong about acquiring power. They think it requires dramatic gestures, bold announcements, or public confrontations. They think power is seized through revolution rather than evolution. They believe it's taken through force rather than through finesse. Real power is acquired quietly. It's accumulated gradually. It's built through competence, not claimed through entitlement. It's earned through results, not demanded through rhetoric. It's developed through strategic patience, not grabbed through desperate action. You've been conditioned to ask for promotions rather than making yourself indispensable, to seek permission rather than taking initiative, to wait for opportunities rather than creating them, to follow procedures rather than producing results. This is the mentality of the permanently powerless, but the truly powerful don't ask for authority. They assume it. They don't wait for permission to lead. They start leading and let others catch up. They don't seek positions of power. They make themselves so valuable that power seeks them. When you become the person others depend on for solutions, you become powerful. When you develop capabilities others lack, you become powerful. When you create value others cannot create, you become powerful. When you solve problems others cannot solve, you become powerful. But let me ask you this: what do you do that no one else can do? What value do you create that others cannot replicate? What problems do you solve that others cannot handle? What capabilities do you possess that make you indispensable? If you can't answer these questions specifically, you don't have power. You have a job. You have a role. You have responsibilities. But you don't have power. Power comes from being irreplaceable, not just useful. Most people try to gain power by being liked, being helpful, being agreeable. They think popularity leads to power. But popularity is not power. Likability is not authority. Being helpful is not being valuable. The helpful can be replaced. The valuable cannot. The powerful focus on becoming indispensable rather than becoming popular. They develop skills others need rather than personalities others enjoy. They create dependencies rather than friendships. They build their power on competence, not charisma. This doesn't mean you become antisocial or unlikable. It means you understand that being liked is a bonus, not a strategy. It means you focus on being respected rather than being loved. It means you prioritize being valuable over being agreeable. Power accumulates in silence. While others are announcing their ambitions, the powerful are developing their capabilities. While others are talking about what they want to achieve, the powerful are achieving it. While others are seeking recognition for their intentions, the powerful are getting results. The most dangerous acquisition of power is the kind no one sees coming. When you quietly develop expertise, build relationships, create value, and solve problems, you accumulate influence without triggering resistance. When you become powerful gradually, people adjust to your authority naturally, rather than fighting it actively. But this requires patience. Most people want power immediately. They want recognition today. They want authority now. They're unwilling to invest years in developing the competence that justifies power. They want the position without the preparation, the title without the talent, the authority without the ability. The powerful think differently. They understand that real power cannot be faked, borrowed, or inherited sustainably. It must be built through demonstrated competence over extended time. It must be earned through results that others cannot dispute or duplicate. When you master skills others need, you gain influence. When you solve problems others cannot solve, you gain authority. When you create value others cannot create, you can gain power. When you become the person others turn to for answers, you become someone they cannot afford to lose. This is how power is really acquired, through making yourself so competent, so valuable, so necessary that others depend on you rather than you depending on them. Through developing capabilities that create options for you and solve problems for others. Through building expertise that translates into influence. Stop waiting for someone to give you power. Start taking it through competence. Stop hoping for recognition. Start earning it through results. Stop seeking permission. Start taking initiative. Stop asking for opportunities. Start creating them. The world doesn't owe you power because you want it. It doesn't owe you authority because you seek it. It doesn't owe you influence because you desire it. Power is not distributed based on need or desire. It's accumulated through demonstration of capability and creation of value. But here's what happens when you stop asking for power and start building it. People begin to seek your opinion. They start coming to you for solutions. They begin treating you as someone whose judgment matters. They start behaving as if you have authority because your competence has created actual authority. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need titles or positions to be effective. It operates through influence, not authority. It works through respect, not fear. It functions through competence, not position. Take power quietly by becoming powerful obviously. Build authority silently by becoming authoritative undeniably. Claim influence subtly by becoming influential inevitably. The power you build through competence cannot be taken away by politics. The authority you earn through results cannot be undermined by rumors. The influence you develop through value. Creation cannot be destroyed by office reorganization. Stop waiting for power to be given. Start taking it through excellence. Everything you need to become who you're meant to be already exists within you. Every capability required for your success is already present in your mind. Every strength necessary for your victory is already dormant in your character. You don't need to find power. You need to remember it. You don't need to develop strength. You need to uncover it. The world didn't weaken you. The world made you forget how strong you already were. Society didn't limit your potential. Society convinced you that your potential was dangerous to others and therefore should be suppressed. Authority didn't steal your power. authority taught. You to give it away voluntarily. You were born sovereign. You entered this world with natural authority over your own existence. You had instinctive understanding of your own needs, your own boundaries, your own desires. You knew when to say yes and when to say no. You demanded what you needed without apology. You expressed yourself without filter, but they trained this sovereignty out of you. They taught you to seek permission for decisions that were yours to make. They convinced you to apologize for taking up space that belonged to you. They conditioned you to doubt instincts that were designed to protect you. They educated you to ignore intuition that was meant to guide you. This was not done maliciously. This was done systematically. Every institution you encountered had reasons for preferring you compliant rather than commanding. Schools needed students who followed rules rather than questioned authority. Employers needed workers who accepted directions rather than created their own paths. Society needed citizens who maintained order rather than disrupted systems, but their reasons for preferring your weakness don't justify your continued acceptance of it. Their need for your compliance doesn't obligate your permanent submission. Their comfort with your limitations doesn't require your permanent residence within them. You've spent years believing that confidence must be built, that strength must be developed, that power must be acquired, but these were already yours. What you actually need to do is remove the barriers that prevent you from accessing what you already possess. You need to unlearn the limitations that were taught to you. You need to reject the weakness that was imposed upon you. But here's what most people don't understand about personal transformation. You're not becoming someone new. You're returning to who you were before the world convinced you to be someone else. You're not developing new capabilities. You're rediscovering capabilities that were buried under layers of conditioning. Every time you felt truly powerful, truly confident, truly in control, you weren't accessing something foreign to your nature. You were connecting with something fundamental to your character. Every moment when you felt completely yourself, completely authentic, completely unstoppable, you were remembering who you really are beneath all the programming. But let me ask you this. Can you remember the last time you felt truly powerful, not artificially pumped up or temporarily motivated, but genuinely, authentically powerful? Can you recall a moment when you knew, without doubt, that you were capable of handling whatever life presented? That feeling is not a rare gift. It's your natural state. That confidence is not an unusual occurrence. It's your default setting. That power is not a temporary condition. It's your permanent inheritance. You don't need to create it. You need to stop destroying it. Every day you diminish your own power through choices that contradict your strength. You say yes when you mean no, teaching others that your boundaries are negotiable. You apologize for achievements that required your sacrifice, teaching others that your success is somehow inappropriate. You seek approval for decisions that are yours to make, teaching others that you don't trust your own judgment. Stop it. Stop participating in your own diminishment. Stop contributing to your own weakness. Stop volunteering for your own limitation. You already possess everything you need to be everything you're meant to become. The power you seek is not located in some distant future when you've finally improved enough to deserve it. It's available right now in this moment, as soon as you decide to stop pretending you don't already have it. The strength you need is not something you'll develop after years of training. It's something you'll access the moment you stop denying its existence. This doesn't mean you stop growing, learning, or improving. It means you stop growing from a position of lack and start growing from a position of abundance. It means you stop learning because you're inadequate and start learning because you're curious. It means you stop improving because you're broken and start improving because you're capable of excellence. You are not damaged goods waiting to be fixed. You are not a rough draft waiting to be edited. You are not a project waiting to be completed. You are already whole, already powerful, already equipped with everything necessary for your success. You just forgot this truth along the way. The world needs you to remember who you are. It needs you to stop hiding your capabilities behind false humility. It needs you to stop diminishing your potential through artificial limitations. It needs you to stop playing small to make others comfortable with their own smallness. Your power was never taken from you. It was never stolen, never lost, never damaged beyond repair. It was buried under years of conditioning that taught you to fear your own strength, doubt your own judgment, and apologize for your own excellence. But conditioning can be reversed. Programming can be rewritten. Limitations can be discarded. The same mind that learned to be weak can learn to be strong again. The same heart that learned to doubt can learn to trust again. The same spirit that learned to submit can learn to command again. You've always had the power. You just forgot you had permission to use it. You've always had the strength. You just forgot you had the right to claim it. You've always had the capability. You just forgot you had the authority to express it. Stop waiting for someone to remind you of who you are. Stop hoping for permission to become who you've always been. Stop seeking approval to access power that was never anyone else's to give or withhold. Remember who you were before they taught you to be weak. Reclaim what was yours before they convinced you to give it away. Return to the sovereignty that is your birthright, your nature, your truth. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it.